Welcome to the Aligned Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Pooja Venkatraman. I'm a double Harvard grad, former BCG consultant, and now an executive coach for high achievers. On this podcast, we are going to tackle the 4 key things that you need to figure out in order to live a life of aligned ambition. Those 4 things are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. We are going to make sure that you're driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go. That is the purpose part. We're also going to make sure that your progress along the road is consistent and effective. That's the productivity and performance part. And we're going to make sure that the fuel you're pouring into your tank isn't so noxious that it's filling your car with fumes and making the whole ride miserable. That is the stress part. Because if you can tackle those 4 things, stress, productivity, performance, and purpose, you can build the life and the career that you actually want. Not the life you think you're supposed to have, not the life that burns you out or doesn't fit quite right, but the life you actually want. One that fulfills your biggest ambitions and unleashes your fullest potential without sacrificing your sanity, your relationships, your authenticity, or your paycheck. A life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. That's what aligned ambition is all about. Let's get started. Hey guys, I am so excited for this week's podcast episode, the 3 types of high achiever burnout. So if you're a high achiever, if you're an Ivy League grad working at a top consulting, finance, tech firm, you've had a brilliant, really accomplished career so far, you have a bunch of great brand names and promotions and things on your resume, but you have hit a point where you're feeling burnt out, misaligned, disconnected, disillusioned, and you know something has to change in your career. You can't just go on, keep on feeling like this, but at the same time, you're not sure exactly what that change should be. Chances are your brain is really focused on the question of what should I do next, right? How do I get out of this situation? What's the next step I should take so I can stop feeling this way? But I like to pause people when they come and talk to me and say, hang on, let's first understand what's not working about where you are right now. We have to understand what the root cause of the current problem is so that we can build a next step that actually addresses those root cause problems. The last thing you want to do is just make a change off the top of your head and then end up feeling exactly the way you're feeling right now, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line. So as I've had these conversations with people again and again to really understand what's the root cause of what's not working where they are, what's causing their burnout, their misalignment, their disillusionment, their detachment from their career, I have identified 3 distinct types of high achiever burnout. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So high achiever burnout type number 1 is feeling like you're doing a bad job. This is as you're doing your work all day long, there's a little soundtrack in your head that's like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Am I doing this right? I feel like I'm doing a bad job. I feel like I'm a fraud. I feel like people are going to find out. I'm about to be caught out that I don't actually know what I'm doing. It's things like I'm going to meetings, I'm presenting, I'm talking to my boss, I'm talking to my leadership. I feel like people aren't impressed. I feel like people are sort of looking down at me or they're just not wowed by what I'm saying. Or it's sitting at your desk, trying to figure out the next steps for something. And you're like, I don't actually know what to do next to move this forward. I don't know what to focus on. I feel like I'm out of my depth. I've never done this before. Now, this feeling of I feel like I'm doing a bad job, it may or may not be correlated with actual bad results or non-A+ results, right? So sometimes people come to me and they're like, no, like truly, my boss isn't happy with me. My KPIs aren't green. Projects are falling behind. Like I'm actually not doing a bad job and then feeling really not doing a good job and feeling really bad about it. And sometimes people come to me and they're like, no, there's no external evidence. Like things are fine, but I feel like I'm on the edge. I feel like I'm barely holding it together and the other shoe is going to drop at any point. So whether or not this feeling comes with real external results, right, of like actual bad results, this is high achiever burnout type number 1 is people feeling all day, every day, like they're doing a bad job or like they're not doing a good job. That's high achiever burnout type number 1. Burnout type number 2 is this feeling of I'm not set up for success here. So this could feel like I'm working really hard. I think I'm doing good work, but my boss isn't seeing it. Me and my manager or me and my leadership, we don't really see eye to eye on what good work even looks like. We kind of disagree on the definition. So I think I'm doing great work, but it's not being recognized. It's not being seen, or there's disagreements about what I should be doing. It also could be something like there's a ceiling on my growth here. The team doesn't have room to promote someone else, or the whole firm, the whole company doesn't have room to promote more people because of business constraints or just the size or the scope of the area that I'm working on. Further progression, promotion, ascension just isn't possible here. This also could be something like, well, I could get promoted. I see the pathway, but it doesn't feel like a good payoff to me. It feels like just a lot more work and like I'm not compensated adequately. I'm not excited about what I would get, even if I got promoted. This also could be something like leadership keeps changing direction, right? And so like one day we're running super hard in one direction, then we get told, never mind, now we're running in this other direction. And so like I can work as hard as I want, but ultimately I'm not going to get to the outcomes because like we can't make up our mind about what we're doing. This also could be things like, the people that I'm working with, whether it's the team under me, whether it's parallel teams, they're not collaborating well with me, or they're not like the high quality of talent I want to work with. And so I can work as hard as I want, but the people I need to collaborate with to get things done, they're not bringing it. And so then I'm being held back. I'm not set up for success. This also could be something like constant reorgs in your organization, which is kind of similar to like, leadership keeping changing directions, or it's sort of in that vein where you're like, listen, I can work as hard as I want every 6 months, every 12 months. There's another reorg, there's another manager, there's another change of priorities. And I'm just like, once again, getting back up to speed, like with a new team and a new manager and proving myself all over again, right? So these are all different flavors of that feeling of I'm not being set up for success. But the common theme there is the sense of like, I can work as hard as I want. It's not going to make that big of a difference in the end result, right? Whether that's because there's not room to grow here, whether that's because we're just going to end up changing directions in a couple months, or I'm just going to get reorged, whether it's because my boss or my leadership doesn't define success in the same way, or we don't see eye to eye about that, or whether I don't have enough support structures. It's all that feeling of like, listen, I can work hard, but like, it's not going to move the needle. It's not actually going to get us to the results we want. And that feeling can be very demotivating and even demoralizing. So that's burnout, high achiever burnout type number 2. And high achiever burnout type number 3 is this feeling of, I don't want to do this anymore, right? This could be things like, this work is just not fulfilling. It's not interesting. The problem we're solving doesn't feel very meaningful. Maybe it feels like BS. Maybe it just feels like late stage capitalism squeezing 2 more cents of shareholder value for the shareholders. But like, who cares? This doesn't matter, right? In the grand scheme of things. It also could be something like, I'm not excited about this overall career path anymore. I'm not excited anymore about being a consultant, being a product manager, being a banker, being an investor, whatever it is, this overall career path. When I look at it and I look at the levels that are coming up in front of me and the work that's involved, I'm like, I'm not sure if I actually want to do that. This also could be, I've actually got boxed into doing a different type of work than what I normally like to do, right? Sometimes this happens, as projects are moving around and things are assigned, you're like, wait, how did this happen? How did I get painted in this corner where I'm doing work that like I don't like doing, right? And now I'm stuck there and I don't want to do this kind of work anymore, right? And also it can kind of feel like sometimes this happens for people if they have kids, if they have a family, or even if they just have like other meaningful pursuits outside of work, whether that's a hobby, maybe you write novels, maybe you're really involved in your local community. When you have real meaningful pursuits outside of work, whatever they are, you can start to get the sense of like, in contrast, work doesn't feel worth it. You're like, hey, if work is going to take me away from these other meaningful pursuits, I'm kind of mad about it. I'm like, what the heck? This doesn't feel like a good trade-off of my time for me to like go spend 8 hours a day, like working over here. Like that feels so much less meaningful and so much less cool than all the other things I have going on in my life. Right. So those are all kind of different flavors of this like burnout type number 3. I don't want to do this anymore. And that feeling is just whispering in my ear all day long, just being like, I don't want to spend time doing this. I don't want to allocate my time towards this. I don't want to be on this path. This doesn't feel meaningful, right? So those are the 3 types of high achiever burnout that I have identified again and again when I've talked to dozens of different high achievers. Type number 1, I feel like I'm doing a bad job. Type number 2, I feel like I'm not set up for success here. And type number 3, I just don't want to do this anymore. Now, notice what I didn't say. Right? What I didn't name as a cause of burnout. I didn't say working long hours, traveling all the time, having really high pressure situations, having tight deadlines, having a really demanding boss or client or customer. That's what people tend to imagine. When they say burnout, they usually imagine someone that's like working in an office building at like 3 a.m. and they've like traveled like far away from their family and they're spending all their time just working and it's a super high pressure deadline. So that's normally what people imagine as like what causes burnout. I didn't talk about any of that stuff just now as I gave you the 3 types of burnout. And now what I just said, right? Long hours, traveling, high pressure, tight deadlines, demanding, constituents, all of those things can correlate with burnout, no questions asked. But those aren't actually the causal factors of burnout. Burnout is not caused by what's going on outside of you. It's not caused by the long hours and the constant emails and the deadlines and like all the demands coming in. Burnout is not caused by what's going on outside of you. Burnout is caused by what's going on inside of you. This is so freaking important. I'm going to say it to you one more time. Burnout is not caused by what's going on outside of you. Burnout is caused by what's going on inside of you. I'm going to give you an example from my own career. I've talked about this before, but just in case you've never heard this story, I'm going to tell it to you again. The time when I felt the least burned out in my career, but one of the times that I felt most fulfilled, most satisfied, most connected to my purpose, the most fun I was ever having. It was one of my last projects at BCG. I worked the longest hours I've probably worked ever in my career. We were in the office easily till like 2 or 3 in the morning, every single, like most days. I would like work on my slides and I'd like work on like other people's slides. And we worked so freaking hard that whole time. And I loved it. I had the time of my life. Listen, I was tired, right? I was sleep deprived and I was tired, like no questions asked, but I felt satisfied. I was having a lot of fun. I felt so connected to the problem, to the team, to my own strengths, to the goals we were trying to achieve. That still goes down in my memory as like one of my most fun projects I ever had, despite being some of the longest hours I've ever worked, right? And the flip side of that, I've had a time period in my career where I barely worked any hours whatsoever. I had about a 3-month period in one of my jobs where like projects were quiet. There wasn't really anything to do. And so I pretty much had nothing to do for 3 whole months, right? I was pretty much on the beach. I could do whatever I wanted. I was still getting paid. No one was looking over my shoulder. I literally could have, like, if I wanted to, I could have sat in the office and just watched TV the entire day and it would have been totally fine. Like nobody cared what I was doing. And that was one of the time periods that burnt me out the most. I was miserable. I did not have a good time in that time. I felt lost. I felt directionless. It definitely did not feel good to just sit around doing nothing all day, but I didn't know what I should be doing. I couldn't get a clear sense of like, what am I doing here? What are my goals? And so even though if you had a little like camera on me, you'd be like, oh, she's not working at all, right? Like what a dream, right? No long hours whatsoever. Internally, it felt really miserable because I felt so directionless and like without a sense of purpose and also without a sense of knowing like, am I doing a good job? Like, what am I even doing, right? Like, I don't like this feeling. So I just tell you that story to really emphasize, right? Burnout is created by what's going on inside of you, not by what's going on outside of you. It's not just a symptom of travel or long hours or lots of demands from your bosses or clients or customers. The real causal factor of burnout is your mental soundtrack. What is going on in your brain and the emotions you're feeling all day long. That's what's actually causing your burnout, right? So now, whichever type of burnout you have, right? Whether you have the, I feel like I'm doing a bad job flavor, or the, I feel like I'm not set up for success flavor, or the, I just don't want to do this anymore flavor, or whether you have a combination of all three, right? You don't have to have just one. Sometimes people will have multiple types going on at the same time. I also want to tell you about 3 additional things that are probably also happening in your mental soundtrack, right? Alongside the combination of those, those first 3 things. So 3 additional things that are probably happening in your mental soundtrack. Thing number 1 is inner conflict. You're probably feeling a constant sense of a tug of war of like this, but this all day long, right? So if you're feeling flavor number 1 of burnout, right? Like I'm not doing a good job. You're probably feeling like I'm not doing a good job, but that's my identity. I'm someone who does a good job. Doing a good job is massively important to me. That's how I find safety, security, and good enoughness in the world. That is the way I do that, is by doing a good job. I have to do a good job, but I'm not doing a good job. I have to do a good job, but I'm not doing a good job, right? That's going to be one type of tug of war that you can experience. If you're feeling flavor number 2 of burnout, right? I'm not set up for success. I'm feeling like I could work as hard as I wanted, but it's not going to make a difference at the end of the day, right? The other side of that equation might be, but I'm someone that's used to working hard and giving it my all. I'm someone that likes to work hard and likes to give it my all. So doing nothing or coasting or just doing the bare minimum, that is not fun for me. That is not my personality. That is not where I get my joy. That feels actually really uncomfortable and unfulfilling. But, right, so it's like, I don't like to just coast. I don't like to just sit around and do nothing or just, do the least and just maintain and do nothing here. But at the same time, I also have the feeling that if I work hard and I give it my all, it's not going to make a difference, right? That's another type of tug of war. It's like, I feel like I'm not set up for success. I feel like my effort is not going to move the needle, but I also don't enjoy sitting around and doing nothing or coasting. That doesn't feel good to me either, right? That's a tug of war. And the tug of war you might experience if you're having flavor 3 of burnout, right? If you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, then the other side of that equation might be, I don't know what else I want to do. And I have to be responsible. I have to be an adult. I have to make money. I can't just up and quit with no plan. So I have to do this. I have to do what I'm doing, but I don't want to do what I'm doing. But I have to do what I'm doing, but I don't want to do what I'm doing, right? So whichever flavor of burnout you're experiencing, chances are it's coming with a tug of war. Right? It's not like you just feel like I'm doing a bad job and that's it. I'm not set up for success. That's it. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's it. If you only had one side of the tug of war pulling you, you would have already quit. you would have already moved on, right? We would not even be having this conversation. What really burns people out and makes them feel really stuck is this tug of war. I'm not doing a good job, but I have to do a good job. I'm not set up for success, and my effort, doesn't feel like it makes a difference, but I also don't like to coast and do the least, right? I don't want to do this anymore, but I have to do this. That tug of war, that back and forth, literally the friction that you're going to feel, right? As those two sides of the argument pull at you every day, that is part of what burns you out, right? It's not just how crappy it feels to think I'm doing a bad job or I'm not set up for success or I don't want to do this. That feels crappy already, right? That'll already burn you out, just those thoughts and feelings running all day long. But I just want to call out, you're probably also feeling inner conflict. You're probably also feeling a tug of war on the other side. And that's also contributing to the burnout, right? That's another part of the mental soundtrack. So that's thing number one. The second element of your mental soundtrack that's probably also happening is confusion. Right? Very often people feel multiple of these types of burnout at the same time. They all kind of tangle together. And so it can be really hard to figure out what's actually going on here. What is the true root cause of the problem with this situation? And therefore, what should I do next? Should I stay? Should I go? What's actually going on? Right? So this could sound like your brain says, well, I feel like I'm doing a bad job here. And then it's like, well, is that true? Or am I just not set up for success? Right? Or your brain might say, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be on this path anymore. And then you're like, is that true? Or am I just thinking that because I feel like I'm doing a bad job? And so that's just me like having a fear of failure or not having like resilience and grit to like keep going even when I'm not doing the best, right? It's not that I don't want to do this. If I was doing a good job, I would totally want to do this. So I'm just being lazy. Or your brain might say, well, I feel like I'm not being set up for success here, but is that true? Or do I just need to work harder? Am I just like complaining and blaming everything on external circumstances when the truth is I just need to get my shit together, right? So I just want you to also know the second element of your mental soundtrack that you might be experiencing is this confusion, where the three types of burnout feel like they all blend together and it becomes really hard for you to just pull it apart and figure out what the heck is actually going on. Am I actually bad at this? And this doesn't play to my strengths, so I should just pivot to something else that does play to my strengths? Or am I like being a whiny baby? I just need to work harder and like show them that I can do it and show myself that I can do it. Am I really not being set up for success here? And I would be a fool to just keep staying here and banging my head against the wall? Or am I being a whiny baby? Right? And I need to double down and like work even harder and like overcome this tough circumstance. And is it true I actually don't want to do this anymore? Or am I just like, am I just tired from balancing all the different things? Or am I just feeling like I'm bad at this, so I want to walk away from something that feels hard, right? So all of these things can tangle together for someone, and it can be so hard for you to figure out like what's the actual true root cause, what's actually going on here. And if you don't figure out what the true root cause is, you can feel afraid that, well, I could make a move, I could make a decision about what to do next, whether it's stay or go or what kind of thing I go to, but I'm afraid I'm just going to end up back in the same situation. Right. And the last thing I want to do is like make a move based on a false understanding of what's really going on here. And then 3, 6, 12 months from now, be like, crap, I'm exactly in the same place I was like just recently. So that's the second element of probably what's happening in your mental soundtrack is just confusion. What is the true root cause? What's really going on here? And how do I know what move to make so that I don't recreate this exact situation a year from now? The third element of your mental soundtrack that's probably happening, in addition to all of these, right, running in parallel, is this feeling of I am off track. Something is going wrong here. Something is wrong with me. This isn't even supposed to be happening. I'm not even supposed to be feeling this way, right? Something is off track. I am off track. The fact that I'm even feeling this way, the fact that I'm even in this situation right now means that I'm off track, right? Because people often have an assumption, especially high achievers, have an assumption that their career is supposed to be linear, right? I'm supposed to have figured this out already. Like, why else have I been working so hard? Why else have I racked up all these prestigious brand names and schools and firms and promotions and accomplishments and experiences? The point of doing all of that was to have security, was to have clarity, was to have progression, right? And you go on LinkedIn and you see your friends' updates, right? Or your connections updates. And you're like, every second day, someone's getting promoted and someone raised an incredible round and someone is like off to do this really cool thing next in their career. And if you click into someone's profile page, you're like, oh my God, the story is so clear. Thing to thing to thing to thing. Oh, that makes so much sense. They totally knew what they were doing. They had so much clarity. They knew exactly how to execute this. And then you come back to your own sense of confusion and like dissatisfaction with your career. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so off track. How could I even be here? Right? I'm supposed to be like everyone else who has it all figured out and is just powering through and chugging along, right? So those are the three additional elements of your mental soundtrack that are probably happening. So just to quickly summarize, I know I told you a lot of things, right? So there are 3 types of high achiever burnout. You may experience one of them or multiple of them, right? Flavor number 1, I'm doing a bad job. Flavor number 2, I'm not set up for success here. And flavor number 3, I just don't want to do this anymore, right? So those are the 3 flavors of high achiever burnout that I've seen again and again. And then no matter which type of those 3 that you have, or whether you have multiple of them going on, there's probably 3 additional elements of your burnout mental soundtrack. One is that sense of inner conflict, right? Of like this, but that, and the friction of that tug of war is burning at you all day long. Second element is confusion. What's true? What's not true? What's actually going on here? Therefore, what should I do next? And the third element of your burnout mental soundtrack is I'm off track. Something's going wrong here. I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't even be feeling this way, right? So those are 6 different elements, right, of your burnout mental soundtrack. That's what's often really going on for people, for high achievers, when they find themselves in this place. Sorry, I had to cough. So the first thing I want to tell you, right, as I draw out this map of the true causes of burnout, the first thing I want to tell you is this is really normal. It is really normal to be here. It is really normal to be feeling all of the things that you're feeling right now, right? Nobody's career progression is as smooth and easy and clear as it looks on the outside, right? The little LinkedIn updates and the like profile progression that's shown on their LinkedIn page, I promise you, that is never the full story. That is just the little snippets of the highlight reel that you're seeing from everyone else. And our brain fills in the gaps of that story with just like beautiful, smooth accomplishments and feeling on top of things and getting lots of praise and everything being really awesome, right? But all you're seeing are like little singular data points. You're missing so much of the story. And I guarantee you, I work with high achievers every single day, every single week. I've had so many conversations about this. I guarantee you that all of these things are incredibly normal. It's normal to feel like you're not doing a good job, right? Sometimes that's because you're learning, you're growing, you're coming up onto a new level of leadership and of progression. And so you run up against like, yeah, I've never done this before. I've not done this that often, so I'm not that good at it, right? So it's normal to feel like you're doing a bad job for that reason. It's also normal that sometimes you get navigated into a corner in your career where you're no longer playing to your strengths and you need to adjust, and you actually don't need to stay there and get better at, what you're doing right now. You need to pivot so that you can play to your strengths and be set up for success that way, right? But that feeling of I'm not doing a good job, super, super normal. The third reason, by the way, that high achievers feel like they're not doing a good job, sometimes we just have a really self-critical inner voice, right? And so you can actually be doing really well and playing to your strengths and having great external results, but you just have a voice in your head that runs on repeat. That's like, you're doing a bad job. You're not doing enough. People are mad at you. The other shoe is about to drop. You're about to get caught out as a fraud, right? That's also really, really normal for high achievers, is to have a relentless inner critic that's always telling them that they haven't done enough, even if things are going really well. So it's normal. It's normal to feel like you're doing a bad job. It's also normal to feel like you're not set up for success. This, as everyone navigates their careers and navigates different organizations or doing their own thing, startups, big corporate, all the different things that people do, the most normal thing in the world is that like the sands shift under you, right? You get reorged, your manager changes, the priorities change. And then all of a sudden you're no longer set up for success in the same way. Everyone has to navigate this. Everyone is doing this dance, right? Of like, my situation is not quite optimal, so I have to make adjustments so I can be set up for success again. And the third flavor of burnout is also really normal. This feeling of like, I just don't want to do this anymore. The things I used to be so excited about doing, the path I used to be so excited about and so clear on, for some reason, I've gotten disillusioned. I've gotten detached to it. I'm just not excited about it anymore. Also really normal. You evolve, your priorities evolve, your knowledge of yourself evolves, and the world evolves, and the work itself evolves, right? All these things are always changing. So it's very normal to have something that you used to be really excited about doing, and now you feel like, wait, I actually don't want to do this anymore. So these adjustments, like finding yourself first off in this position, right? Where you're like, I'm burnt out, I'm dissatisfied, I'm misaligned, like I'm detached, like something's not working about my career right now. And I'm having all these like burnout soundtrack thoughts and feelings, right? I feel like I'm not doing a good job. I feel like I'm not set up for success. I feel like maybe I don't want to do this anymore. I'm experiencing the inner conflict. I'm confused about why this is happening. And I feel like I'm off track, right? All of that is really, really normal to be feeling that way. And then it's also normal to like have to make adjustments in your career to be like, okay, how do we fix these things? And I also want to say it's normal because you're a high achiever. Work is so important to you. Right? Work, achievement, your career are so tremendously important to you that when one or multiple of these things start happening, it all feels really high stakes, right? You take it really seriously. It feels like a high stress, very important situation to be able to figure this out. And that also kind of pushes you towards that burnout. So that's all I wanted to do in today's podcast episode is one, to map out for you the 3 different types of high achiever burnout so that you could identify for yourself which one or which multiple of them you might be feeling. And then also to tell you the 3 additional elements of your burnout mental soundtrack that you might be experiencing so that you can really start to identify, this is what's going on. This is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. So here's what I want you to do next. I want you to go to the episode description. I want you to book a free career audit with me, right? So this episode's coming out on Monday. I want you to give yourself like a couple of days. If you listen to this on Monday, book your call with me like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, right? But go to that link and go ahead and book a call with me like this week, like within the next few days, book a call. And then in the couple of days that you're giving yourself between right now and when you book the call, I want you to jot down your thoughts and feelings throughout the day. Because like I told you, right? Burnout is not caused by what's going on outside of you. Burnout is caused by what's going on inside of you. Burnout is being caused by your mental and emotional soundtrack that is running in your head all day long. So I want you to take the couple days between now and whenever you booked your free career audit with me, just do it sometime this week, but give yourself a day or 2 in between. And I want you to just jot down your mental soundtrack. What are those thoughts? What are those feelings that are running in your brain and running in your nervous system that are actually causing the burnout? Right? Is it, I'm not doing a good job? Is it, I'm not set up for success? Is it, I don't actually want to be doing this? Is it the inner conflict of like going back and forth? Is it confusion? What's really going on here? Is it the sense of like, I'm off track, I shouldn't even be here, right? I gave you 6 different elements, right? 6 different parts of your mental soundtrack that might be happening. Chances are 1 or multiple of those are certainly happening for you. But I want you to take a couple days to just jot down your thoughts and feelings throughout the day. And just get a picture of like, what's my mental soundtrack? What's actually going on in here? And then I want you to bring that to the call, right? Give yourself a couple days and then bring that to the call, whether you book it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you're listening on a Monday, bring your mental soundtrack to the call and tell me what it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you detangle them. I'm going to help you figure out of all the different threads of this mental soundtrack, what is really going on here? What is the root cause? What of your burnout is being caused by the external situation and you definitely actually need to get out? And what of your burnout is being caused by your internal situation and the way you tend to habitually talk to yourself and feel about yourself? And that you've got to fix exactly where you are because it's just coming with you to the next job. Right? So we're going to really understand the root cause of this burnout, what's external, what's internal, and therefore what should you do about it? And then based on that diagnosis, we are going to build a game plan. I'm going to build it for you, a game plan for getting clear on what's next, making it a success, and building a career that doesn't burn you out again. Because if you have felt this way, I know one of your top priorities is to never feel this way again, right? And to really deeply understand what caused you to feel this way so that you can be really sure that you are constructing things so you'll never feel this way again. That's exactly what I want you to do. Go right now to the link in the episode description. Go to the book a free career audit link. Get your call on the calendar. Do that first, right? Because once you have the call on the calendar, that's going to be your deadline, and then you're going to collect your soundtrack as you go. So do that right now. Go to the booking link. Put your call on the calendar. I would say like 2 to 3 days from now. Right? Book your call a couple of days out. That's going to be your hard deadline. And then that's going to give you the push to actually jot down your mental soundtrack as you go for the next couple of days. And then just bring that to the call. You don't have to clean it up. You don't have to organize it. I am the expert at taking in like a raw brain dump. You just bring your raw notes. You can even send them to me ahead of time if you want to, right? But just bring your raw brain dump of like, here's the thoughts and feelings that have been running in my brain. Here's the mental soundtrack that I noticed was actually going on over the last couple of days. Pooja, I'm going to bring it to you. And then you tell me what the hell is going on and what should I do about it, right? That's my job. That's what I'll help you do. But book that call first. Give yourself a firm deadline. Book it just 2 or 3 days out from right now, right? Book it and then do your homework, collect your mental soundtrack as you go, and then bring it on the call with me. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you should do going forward so that you never have to feel this way again and you can build a burnout-free career. All right. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Aligned Ambition podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and share this podcast with anyone you know that you think could use it. If you'd like to explore working together in a one-on-one coaching engagement with me, book a free consult call at poojavcoaching.com/contact. You can grab that link in the episode description. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or topics you want me to cover in this podcast, shoot me an email at pooja@poojavcoaching.com. You can grab that in the episode description too. Talk to you soon.